Hey everyone, it's time again to recap the latest news from the solar PV industry compiled by the American Solar Energy Society. I'm Jay Warmke with SolarPVTraining.com, and this is what's happening in the wonderful world of solar for the week of August 31st. Global investment in renewable energy projects hit a record this year, but fell in the U.S. according to a recent study by Bloomberg NEF. The first half of 2025 saw the reallocation of investment dollars away from the United States, with spending falling $20.5 billion, or 36% from the second half of 2024. It was the steepest drop in renewable energy investment of any nation. Bloomberg stated the falloff was a direct response to the U.S. presidential election and anticipated anti-renewable energy federal policies. Those fears have proven justified. Cancellation of clean tech manufacturing plans outpaced new investment announcements in the second quarter of this year. Developers canceled roughly $5 billion worth of previously announced manufacturing investments, while companies announced only $4 billion in new projects. That $4 billion is a 59% drop from the first quarter of 2025 and a 44% decline from the second quarter of 2024. In addition to the removal of energy tax incentives by the Trump administration, tariffs have also had a negative impact on projects. A study by Arvon, a leading utility-scale solar developer, found that the cost of solar and battery storage projects increased by as much as 30% due to tariffs on steel and aluminum. EIA projects utility-scale storage capacity will grow from 29 gigawatts in 2025 to about 65.7 gigawatts by the end of 2026, with Texas leading the way with 18 gigawatts of planned storage installed this year. Grid storage capacity has seen tremendous gains in recent years. Generators added 10.4 gigawatts of new battery storage capacity in 2024, growing that industry by 66%. Storage deployment is anticipated to see continued growth over the coming decade. While wind and solar incentives were targeted in the recent budget reconciliation bill, incentives for grid storage were largely untouched. Battery storage projects will continue to have tax credits available through 2033. However, they will still face developmental headwinds, primarily in complying with the new Foreign Entities of Concerns restrictions that limit tax credits from anyone buying components from China, Russia, and Iran. China accounted for 74% of the world's battery pack and component exports in 2023, and that same year, China controlled 85% of the batteries that were produced worldwide. The global game of solar panel whack-a-mole continues. All three commissioners of the U.S. International Trade Commission voted to investigate solar cells and panels imported from India, Indonesia, and Laos for unfair trade practices. The Alliance for American Solar Manufacturing and Trade requested the anti-dumping countervailing duty investigation in mid-July. The group represents American solar manufacturers who claim panels from those nations are unfairly competing with domestic suppliers. The U.S. solar market saw a dramatic uptick in solar imports from the three countries once tariffs were placed on solar imports from Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. The U.S. manufacturers claim that to avoid the Southeast Asian tariffs, global solar manufacturers relocated their operations to India, Indonesia, and Laos, and those countries' governments subsidized the process. Restrictions have been placed on panels from Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam after Chinese manufacturers relocated production to those nations to avoid tariffs placed on panels from China. Noria Energy, a developer of floating solar panel systems, has begun construction of the Aria Solar, a 50-kilowatt floating solar pilot project in Golden, Colorado, that will provide renewable energy to local water utility operations. The Golden project is the first in the United States to deploy floating solar tracking technology on water. Today's conventional floating solar systems are static and do not track with the sun. This installation will in fact track with the sun by rotating the entire solar array, increasing the array's output by between 10 to 20%, according to a statement by Noria Energy. The project is located on the Fairmount Reservoir, a water storage reservoir owned and operated by Consolidated Mutual Water Company. The 50 kilowatt project is scheduled to begin generating power in September of this year. And that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.